Our discourse will use the straight panel discussion mode. We begin with a 3-minute opening statement of our panel of experts. To be followed by an open forum. Participants are expected to see outlook, perspectives, and trends in store development in the new normal and beyond, assess their company's prospects in pursuance of continued growth and strategic expansion in the coming years, and determine the long-term impact of the emerging realities in store development. This plenary session is brought to you by BPI, PLDT, Insular Life, 7-Eleven.
Thanks for staying with us, everybody. Okay, let's get right to it. Our discourse will use the straight panel discussion mode. As you saw in the video, we begin with a 3-minute opening statement of our panel of experts to be followed by an open forum, and it will be my pleasure to moderate. Participants are expected to see outlook, perspectives, and trends in store development in the new normal and beyond, assess your company's prospects in pursuance of continued growth and strategic expansion in, of course, the coming years. Let's also determine the long-term impact of the emerging realities of store development, shall we? And so, once again, this plenary session is brought to you by BPI, PLDT, Insular Life, and 7-Eleven. Feel free to send your questions and comments using the Q&A button, please. And now, without further ado, let me introduce you to our panel of experts for this plenary session on the renaissance of store development. Our first panelist has over 3 decades of experience in the restaurant industry and has led multi-country franchise operations of over 200 outlets. He is the president and CEO of 888 Food Group, a subsidiary of Udena Corporation that focuses on food and hospitality. It currently operates Conti's Restaurant and Bakeshop, Wendy's Philippines, Masuma Food Industry, and 888 Food Solutions. He's very much experienced in brand positioning, revenue growth, financial management, and driving operational excellence. A recipient of the 2016 International Franchisor of the Year Award and a 6-time recipient of Minor Award of Excellence. Give it up for Mr. Joey Garcia, CFE. Good morning, Joey.
Good morning. Morning, Isa. Good morning, everyone.
I believe you'll be giving us your 3-minute opening statement, Joey.
Okay. So let me start. I think first, I'd like to thank the entire PFA, first the board, chairman, and the president for allowing me to be part of the conference this morning. Probably, I think over the past 6 months, we all experienced a quite unique and probably the biggest challenge of our career. I think, as mentioned by Isa, I have been in the industry for over 30 years, 33 to be exact, and I've been in multiple countries. And probably this is the toughest challenge that I've faced in that entire career. But nevertheless, I think this is also the best learning over that 33 decades of experience I had. Allow me to just briefly probably share with you what the group had experienced over the past 6 months. How did we face those challenges short term, as well as how do we see these challenges in long term with regard specifically to the store development. In the beginning of COVID, or the pandemic, during the lockdown, majority of our restaurants were closed. If most of you are familiar with both Conti's and Wendy's, these restaurants are very aligned in business, or maybe as we call the on-premise consumption. As we see this unfold, the pandemic unfold, we had lost majority of our business, specifically the dine-in. And we realized that having dependency on dining will not sustain for long term. So we have seen, though, another opportunity. And I think in every crisis, there is an opportunity. I think that's something that we all have seen. I think over the past 6 months, I think we have seen within our group a dramatic increase on our off-premise consumption or off-premise business, specifically the delivery and the takeout, as well as those out off-premise consumptions that we actually provide through our commissary operations or through our food solutions group. When we went back and say in April, said most of our formats are not working. Basically, the brick and mortars restaurants are there, but they don't have customers. And we realized that there's only way to do it. What are the new trends? What are the new trends that we've seen is the delivery. Customers are more staying home. I think a lot of us stayed home. A lot of us actually have more opportunity to spend time with our family and have time to do things, or as I say, the stay-home project or the DIY thing. I think through that, I think we realized that even when we look back and say, do we have enough restaurants to really capture this opportunity? We realized we don't have. So in that regards, we went back to our drawing board and say, take all of these plans that we have for 2020, and let's go back to the drawing board and say, how could we actually take this challenge and look at the opportunities? This is where we have built and actually the birth of our called the new store formats that we have recently deployed and are we deploying in the next few months for both Conti's and Wendy's. Recently, we have launched our dark kitchen concepts. A couple of them are already operating, and actually they are the most profitable, I must say, store formats that we have in the group. I think for most reason of that, I think we have a very low capex and low rentals. I think that was probably, without the crisis, I don't think we'll have to go back and revisit that, because for us, we are, as I said, a dine-in dependent concept. Also, during the pandemic, over the past 6 months, we looked at the consumer behavioral change. And we noticed that the grab and go, which is what we've seen specifically to our Conti's brand, have recently grown. I think a lot of us think that deliveries are growing, but the takeout have also grown. So a lot of us think that the mall locations is not going to work anymore. In fact, we have opened our one of our kiosk store in Fisher Mall in Quezon City, and it's one of the best performing kiosk stores. So I think the grab and go will remain there, and concepts like that I think will stay. Recently, we have to go back, as I said, to our drawing board and say we can't spend more because cash is so important nowadays. How could we sustain our development growth without really exhausting our financials or cash at the moment? The team have worked together and say, if we would like to continue to grow and capture the delivery opportunity, we have to find the right formats that will have the right balance between the capex and rental. Recently, we have launched and about to launch our concept, which is what we call the lean model store. The lean model store are actually stores that will be mainly based on community, capturing the delivery needs of those community with an objective of reaching you closer, getting the orders on time, and having those products hot and fresh. With that models that we have recently launched, we'll be able to capture and deliver those customer needs as the new norm have changed. I think most of the changes will continue to persist. In the long term, I think what the food operators should understand is not only creating formats, but how do they sense the future? When I say the future is, I think most consumers will still have to go out after the pandemic. Dining will return. I don't think that will be something that will change over time. But for us as food operators, I think the biggest challenge is how we can see the future and how we could adapt to the future. I think there will be emergence on the preference of the consumer by making sure that the restaurant they choose have the best standards when it comes to food hygiene. What the operator should look at is, I think, how they could adapt and be able to make sure the restaurants that they build in the future actually meet those new customers' needs, from the hygiene, food safety standards that they expect, the technology that should come in for the convenience and speed, and of course, I think without compromising the food quality and the service that everyone is expecting from them. So I think I wouldn't take more than of the 3 minutes, Isa, but I would like to leave a short message to everyone in this 3 minutes. I think as I open up, I think in every crisis there's an opportunity, as I said. And I think I always tell this to everyone, especially my team members, let us not waste an opportunity. And I think for everyone, let's take this an opportunity for us to look at our business model, our store formats, and how we can actually sense the future and be able to adapt the new normal. Thank you, Isa.
Thank you, Joey. And of course, you're going to be staying on for our discussion after our two next speakers have given their opening statements. So thank you very much. That was Joey Garcia. In fact, Joey, we already have a question for you from Emiliano Romano. I'll throw that question in later during the Q&A. Thanks, Emiliano Romano, for sending it in. If you have questions as well, send it via the Q&A box, everybody. So yes, from what Joey just said, I definitely agree that purchasing and behavioral patterns of consumers have definitely changed during this new normal. And of course, with new store formats that we have right now, well, we should be ready to adapt to even more changes as we go through this pandemic. I particularly like how Joey said, find the opportunity in every adversity. So hearing what your company has done, or we're gonna hear even more about it during the panel discussion, let's see how we can all further cater to the needs of our customers and learn from each other. So again, thank you very much, Joey. Next, why don't we hear from our next panelist for his opening statement. He is the Senior Vice President of BPI. He is the head of the newly established business banking segment for BPI, overseeing the expansion of BPI's presence within the SME space, which has been identified as a growth area for the bank, with a vision of becoming the partner of choice for SMEs in the Philippines. He has joined the BPI Group in 2013 as head of debt capital markets, which later expanded to concurrently becoming the head of execution and treasurer of BPI Capital. In 2017, he became the head of corporate credit products, managing the credit reviews and renewals of all the accounts under the corporate bank. Let's hear the opening statement of Mr. Eric Roberto M. Luchanco. Good morning, Eric.
Hi, good morning. Morning. And Isa, thanks for that introduction. And I'd also like to thank PFA for having me here today. I think the topic for today's panel discussion is very interesting. And I hope it provides a useful viewpoint to our viewers here today. I'd like to think that, it can help them prepare for how things are evolving as we move forward. From our own experience at BPI, we've had to make a lot of changes in the way that we interact with our customers as a result of the pandemic. But before I get into that, and I definitely will. Before I get into that, I just wanted to talk a little about what BPI is doing in order to increase our interaction and the way that we support our customers, the SME customers, and in particular, the members of PFA. Given our long-standing partnership with PFA, we've developed a product that we call the Business Franchise Financing Loan, or BFF. And it's a product that's meant specifically to target PFA members and franchisees in order to provide them with financing, recognizing that franchisees in general have better track records than other kinds of startup businesses. And so we wanted to give credit to the borrowers for that, to the potential borrowers for that. The loans offer up to 3-year financing with a 3-month grace period. And for amounts up to $3 million, we can do it on a clean basis. While we still do need to run some credit checks, there is just to make sure that there's potential for repayment. We do give credit for factors like PFA membership and the nature of the franchisees, as I just mentioned. Anyway, kind of moving back more onto topic, I wanted to share with all of you some of the things about how we envision things changing from the old way of doing business. And by old, I don't mean it's that old, but it's really pre-COVID, right? And so one of the key things, obviously, is we've made a big push into digital. Since the start of this year, we've had a number of transactions we've seen good growth in the number of transactions through our online and digital channels. We've seen this almost double, both in terms of number and in terms of value. And during ECQ, even though we actually saw a drop in the total number of transactions, and this is mainly because of businesses being closed, and therefore there's not that many transactions that need to happen. As ECQ drew on and as businesses started to reopen, we saw a gradual but consistent recovery in these number of transactions. And we expect this to be the case moving forward, right? As more and more businesses continue to open, we expect to see continued growth in the number of transactions. But we also expect that many of the transactions that used to be conducted through our branches will remain with our digital channels. It's just, from what we see, it's just more convenient. And therefore, vaccine or no vaccine, even if things return completely back to the way they were, they will never really be completely back to the way they were, right? Because people will have adopted some of the things that they've changed through this as a result of this pandemic, and they will continue to do these things because they found this is the better way or more convenient way to do things. So that's what we expect to see moving forward. So it's simply that they will force themselves to, or not force themselves, but continue to use what they feel are the better means. And where it was better in the old ways, they will go back to that. So what does this mean for us? I mean, for us at BPI, even the branches that we have, we are continually reviewing the way the branches are set up. And as we expect that some of the simpler, more routinary transactions, such as bank transfers, instead of filling out a deposit and withdrawal form, you will just do a bank transfer online or some kind of bills payment. Still, pre-COVID, there's still a number of, a lot of people going to the branch to do physical bill payment, and we see a lot of this staying in the digital means moving forward. And therefore, what we think is that the branch transactions will tend to become more of the solutions-oriented transactions, where it's not just a simple, you fill out a form and then you submit the form and that's it. It's going to be more of the consultation type of things, where you want to talk to the banker and say, what do you think is best for me in my specific situation? Things that are a little more difficult to do through, you just click a few buttons online and the transaction is done, where you need kind of a discussion. And our branches will likely evolve to accommodate this kind of thing. So that's something that we're continually, that we're very much looking at now, and we will continue to look at as things move forward, how the branch needs to evolve in order to properly serve our consumers and our customers. And this is not going to be a one-time answer. As customer behaviors change, we will continue to evolve with these customers. And we see the same things happening with our borrowing customers, with those that we extend loans to, right? We're seeing that they have to adapt to the new environment. I mean, Joey was just talking earlier about some of the ways in which he sees their restaurants having to make some changes. But we also see it kind of across the board, that not just restaurants, but even in the storefronts, regular retail stores, we see that probably there will be an increasing amount of business that they're looking at doing. At least the initial transaction where they make the decision will be online, and the storefronts may then become just more of the fulfillment. We saw this, or we've seen this happening in China, where digital penetration is very, very high, and we see the stores as becoming more of fulfillment centers, right? Still laid out, but still laid out in a manner that's very acceptable to consumers, but less geared towards browsing and more geared towards kind of the fulfillment side, where they can just see, oh yeah, this is what I'm here to pick up. And part and parcel of that is seeing some evolution in the way that customers are going to pay for it as well. So in all likelihood, it will just be the final leg of the transaction where they're completing, maybe using the card, ideally staying away from cash as much as possible in order to keep it more contactless. And those are some of the changes that we see. I'm happy to discuss it more during the panel discussion. And I just want to leave you with the thought that we remain supportive of our customers, and we continue to want to help you with the evolution. And we wish you the best of luck in terms of bravely moving forward in this new environment, and hope that we can support you as best we can. Thank you.
Wow, that was already like bursting with ideas, Eric. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to touch on some of what you just said earlier, but this idea, stores as fulfillment centers, less browsing, definitely adjusting with the times, going for cashless transactions and all that. We're going to highlight it after we hear from our third panelist. But for now, it was very insightful to know that BPI is navigating its changes through the needs of your clients. I'm one of them. It's not only the retailers who are quickly adapting to the changes in this new normal, but the banks are equally resilient in making changes as well. Getting exciting, don't you think? So let's head on to our third panelist, who will be giving his opening statement. And he has had over 16 years of retail experience. He's passionate in making innovations in the retail industry. Currently the Vice President for Operations of Doktors Generics Pharmacy, managing over 120 stores of the generic pharmacy nationwide. He's a BS Management graduate from Ateneo de Manila University. Here's Bryce Justin Godfried. Hey, Bryce. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Isa. Thank you for that introduction. First of all, I want to thank the PFA for inviting me over to share my insights about this topic. It's funny because a lot of the things that the previous speakers have been talking about is actually being done by our stores right now.
Oh, that's good.
We're blessed to be considered an essential business during this pandemic, and therefore, a business like TGP has, a little bit of an ease to pivot through this crisis. Nevertheless, a lot of adjustments have been made because of, some problems. Number one, a lot of our mall branches have been really declining significantly. But at the same time, we saw a lot of our community stores performing well. This made us think of repositioning our stores from our mall-based stores to a more of a community setup. Okay, I'm not discounting the fact that probably in the near future malls will make a comeback. But if I'm talking about the now, I am seeing the trend that the community retail stores are performing better. I like what Dr. Sammy Lim discussed in his talk a while ago. He said that take advantage of the opportunities, especially in community locations, because a lot of other businesses are closing down. Therefore, rental rates are going down. There are spaces opening up. And that's what exactly we are experiencing right now. For example, some of our, prime locations that have really high rentals had some openings, 50, 100 meters away. And these lessors have been offering us rentals of almost half of the current rental rates we are having, and therefore we opted to to relocate our stores to these new locations. We made a lot of negotiations with our lessors the past few months. This is to manage our expenses, especially our overhead, because of course, retail is retail. It's all about location, but also we spend a lot on overhead expenses, especially on rentals. That's the one of our focus things that we needed to pin down during this crisis. Another thing that we were looking at was our manpower scheduling. The past few months, because of all these closures, LGUs imposing curfews, we saw a lot of low walk-ins in our stores, but it was actually compensated by high basket value. Before, if we seen before the pandemic, our customers really by the day, okay? But because of what happened, people now are storing up for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and they go to the store less and less. So this opened up an opportunity for us to adjust in terms of manpower scheduling, and also being efficient on where we put our people, at what hours we really need our people. We also saw the trend of a lot of our customers requesting for pickup and delivery. This is, I think, what Eric was talking about, and also Catherine Monson was talking about. We opened up Viber groups, Facebook ads, so that our customers will be able to interact with us, tell us what they need, and we gave out our store hotlines to them, so that they could only just call our store managers, tell them, here's my order, I will go to the store and just pick them up. What Eric mentioned was really true, and it's really happening right now. And also, he mentioned about cashless transactions. The past few months, we've seen the unprecedented spike in our cashless tenders, like PayMaya, GCash, credit card payments. So for a TGP store, you won't expect that these trends will happen pre-COVID, okay? But because of the pandemic, we've seen this trend really steadily increasing, and because of this, we incorporated all these systems in our new way of serving the customer in store. We actually institutionalized a new standard store format. If before we were looking at 30, 40 square meters of space to fit our products, our people, have some buffer stocks. Right now, what we're looking at is smaller spaces, window type stores, instead of that walk-in store with all those acrylic barriers or plastic covers that you would see. We want a smaller, more efficient, a clean look type of space. And Eric actually hit the spot when he said it's about fulfillment in the future. So that's what we're gunning for also. The silver lining of all of these is, it's not about us being forced to change our system due to the pandemic, but actually this crisis made us really think and execute ahead of time what is supposed to be the ideal way of serving our customers. High turnover, efficient servicing, efficient use of space, all these things. For us, we're not stopping in innovating the way we serve our customers. All of this feedback that we are getting from clients, co-business owners, we're digesting all of these and turning it into something that we see that will be beneficial to our clients later on. So in closing, I know we still have a lot of things to discuss in the open forum, but for me, I have a very positive outlook of things. I'm actually rooting for the industry of the restaurant industry, the food industry, like Joey. I know it's been harder for them at this time, but it's right. This our theme of resiliency is really true, and I believe if we work together, we can really overcome this crisis. So there. I think we still have a lot of things to be discussed.
Yes, we do. But I wanted to say thank you very much. That's Bryce, Justin, Godfried. I love it. Again, all of you are pretty much aligned with where we stand and how to deal with what's happening right now. But definitely the ideas of how to move forward are getting mentioned. And it really is interesting. So what we're looking at when it comes to new store formats, we're all going to echo what Eric said. Fulfillment-based versus just browsing, right? Pickups and delivery and cashless transactions versus just dilly-dallying, kumbaga. Pero let's still talk about the in-store experience, right? So with the way people are right now, very conscious of people around them, people near them, limiting the time they spend outside their homes. And really, even with me, when someone passes by, you spritz alcohol right there and there. Sanggaling yan, diba? I mean, no one's apologizing anymore for being OC or for being OA. Pero that's just the reality, right? So providing them with more convenience, efficient. I think Bryce kept saying that word, efficient ways to hit their needs, to deliver their needs, adapting really to the times. Okay, gentlemen, I'll put pretty much, there's a couple of questions in already, so I'm actually going to try to merge it in the interest of time, okay? So Joey's the one who so far named the environment there we're in. But Joey, like Bryce, could you take us through what you've actually done then to deal with the situation and move forward? Because so far what you said is take a look at opportunities. So what have been the opportunities for you? Maybe it can be recreated in some of our attendees' offices. Joey? Because again, I'm coming from Bryce, really breaking it down from us, from management of manpower time, negotiating with the lessors. Shall we hear from Joey about this one?
Isa, maybe I'll focus on the store format as
okay.
As the topic. I think most of us, when we came into this pandemic, we were in a situation that we already have existing brick and mortars investments, right?
Yeah.
For most of the F&B operators. So we can't do anything anymore. You can't just build a store and say it doesn't work, then you just basically close it. So you have some assets there that has to be depreciated that goes along with your book. And I think for a highly for a concept like Conti's and Wendy's, we have highly dependencies on dining business. Hence, we are investing high on our store in terms of size, dining experience, as well as those spaces that is required to deliver those experiences. So we end up with basically get cornered in a situation we can't do anything because we can't change that. That is a reality. This is where we are. I think
it's there, nay. It's there, nay.
So for us, we have to step back and say, we can't change that anymore. What do we need to do? So went back on a step back and say, okay, there is a changing consumer behavior in terms of on the needs of they're still wanting to get our products, right? And how we could actually give this product. And then when we realized even we wanted to do that, our network of stores are not enough. So we don't have enough stores to cover the entire thing. Because most of our customers drives to the mall or to those areas where we are, right? Park and then go to the restaurants. So we end up in a situation where we have to do some drastic change. So I think for us, we have to go back and say, okay, there is a present situations that we have problem, we have challenges, but what we could do, we can't just sit and wait, right? So what we did is just address that immediately. We have to actually see the opportunity. We have actually established our own delivery systems, created those platforms to enable the customers to reach us closer, expanded our delivery trade zone so we could actually reach them on time, and so on and so forth. But moving to the next step is that, okay, this is not going to work because this is not sustainable. Customers can actually willing to wait for an hour, but not for long, right? So we have to go back and say how we could actually get closer to them and deliver those products on time. But looking at our cash, we don't have enough cash because we really have hard time in actually on our cash flow because of this restriction in dining consumption and so on. But we cannot just stay there, right? So we have to go back and say, we have to reach our customers. This is where we actually looked at all the opportunities that we have. We have looked at all the assets that we have. There are some assets that are there that we could actually use for our dark kitchens. We have converted some of those existing assets, convert them into a kitchen, and basically expanded the delivery of our store. We also have looked at all those stores that we have, basically an opportunity to cover a larger trade areas overlapping with another source and so forth. So we also have partners with those aggregators, our sister company, to basically expand the deliveries and so on. Now, that is what we did for the short term. Going back, as I think most of the audience concern is what's next, right? Because I think all of us have done what is in front of us. We address that.
Yeah.
What's next? What I see as next thing, I think it is important in the short term that we have to manage cash. We have to keep the employees and we have to manage our cash. I think so far we are thankful that we haven't lost a single employee since the beginning of the lockdown and the quarantine. So
cheers to you. Cheers to your group, Joey. Wonderful to hear. Employees
that are still employed, although they're not working full time, but most of them are getting their financial support to the basis support their family. Now, next, I think we have to understand what is the short term and mid-term opportunity. You have to manage cash, so you have to build some formats that could actually be closer to your customers and be able to get closer to your customer and deliver that needs that they have right now. Because right now, they can't go out. As you said, you want to stay home, reluctant to go out, stay in the mall and so on. So you have to get closer to them, but you can't invest for more. So you have to create some formats that are adaptable to that environment, that you don't have to spend large amount of capex and very minimal rentals. So I think that's the short-term formula for anyone who wants to capture the opportunity. Okay, make sure that you need to redesign, go back to your drawing board, redesign your format, and make sure you can cut your capex into 1 quarter. If you can do that half a quarter, if you're spending 20 million for a typical stores, you probably spend about 5 million only for 7 million to make it work. If you can make that, I think they will be successful during this time. You can't afford to do another 20 million at this time.
Okay.
And then make sure when you go for your rentals, you make sure that these concessions with landlords are temporary. They're not going to be permanent. So you can't rely on that. They're helpful. I mean, there's a lot of help coming from the landlords, but that won't sustain. So make sure when you engage the rentals, you only have to look at those rentals and capex and make sure your break-evens are really very low. I think that's where the future. Now, that's the short term and the mid term. The long term, I would still suggest that the brands, the F&B, the retailers has to remain focused on their long-term vision. I think I always call this putting the bridge during this time of the crisis or the pandemic to your long-term goals. So I think what you need to do now is just putting that bridge to be able to cross over that challenge that you have. Remain focused on the long-term goals of the company, of the brand, or the vision of the company, or the vision of each of your brands. You really have to invest a lot on what Eric and Bryce mentions on technology. I think those are some things you cannot leave behind. It has to go parallel to your store format innovation. And also, I think don't forget about investing in your people as well, which is very critical.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Joey. Bryce was nodding a lot about everything, how you were mentioning, how to go about it in the now. So before I get to Bryce, Eric, the word invest, pay, manage cash was always in what Joey and Bryce were saying. So this is where Eric comes in, especially when you're talking about loans, right, Eric? How can banks, particularly BPI, help in these managing of cash flow, how to help businesses stay afloat? Anything you'd like to say to the likes of Bryce and Joey with regards to addressing certain financial or balance problems? Here's one more for you from Irene Lucas. Eric, your franchise business loan package offers an interest of 12%, which is very high for a startup micro small business. Any hopes of reducing it? Anyway, put that all in, please. Eric, it's your turn.
Sure. Thank you. No, so on the loan side, obviously, there are certain things that we can take a look at. It depends on the business specifically, and we will take a look on a specific basis. But one of the key ways for the interest rate to come down is to provide some kind of collateral, right? I know that not everybody can provide that, but for those that can provide it, then it generally is going to result in a lower interest rate because there's less risk from the bank's perspective. And that's really the way that banks operate, right?
Eric, if I may, so that means if you actually have a brick and mortar store, that can be collateral. It's part of that.
As long as you own it, right? Because if you're just renting from the mall, then it's not really yours to provide as collateral, as an example, right? But if you do own your own store, then that can be the collateral that you will use.
Okay. What about managing the financial situations that both Eric, Joey, and Bryce were mentioning? Like how to manage this, taper that, talking to lessors, keeping your people.
Sure. So actually, there are a number of aspects in terms of BPI or banks, even banks in general, providing the kind of support that SMEs and franchisees need at this time in order to kind of make it through this situation, right? And one of them is financing, and obviously what we're trying to do here is through our BFF, our business franchising loan, is to provide them with that kind of financing that they need. We do realize that revenues are down right now, but we also recognize that this is going to be a temporary situation, right? We don't know exactly when it's going to kind of head back to what you kind of think as normal, but we do expect that things will go back to the way that they were. Yes. So anyway, so that and so what we're looking at doing is providing people with a means to kind of traverse this difficult times.
To get you back. To get you back.
That's right. And so your business doesn't have to be like super profitable at a time like this, but we realize that even if you can just manage these lower payments, and that's why we're saying, for the first 3 months, we'll provide you with a grace period in order that, you have lower debt service at this time in order to kind of help you through, especially at a time when you're trying to fix your business and adopt to new ways of doing things, provide you with that little bit of flexibility before you have to start repaying the principal itself. Of course, interest will be due throughout the period, but of course that's still lower than having to pay both interest and principal at the same time. At the same time, one of the things that Joey and Bryce both alluded to was payment options, right? And that's not just on the loan side, but we're doing a lot in terms of giving connectivity to other businesses or to other payment options as well. Either you can pay through BPI, doing our online transfers, not only to BPI, but even to other banks as well. But even other means, such as we can connect to GCash and PayMaya. Those are also connectivity options to us. And recently, during the pandemic, this is not directly related to payments for stores or for restaurants, but we also allowed BPI to cash, right? So that through your BPI payment, you can send money to various other outlets, such as Cebuano or Palawan, and people can withdraw money, just having the authorization code that will be provided. And then so we're looking at a lot of ways of making transferring of money digitally much easier, and then that's another way in which we're supporting. And our BizLink service, which is basically allowing businesses to make payments, regular payments, government payments, or payments to their employees or to other regular counterparties, doing that all online and just making it easier for people to do as much as they can online rather than having to do it physically.
We'll definitely see this paving the way, even down to like tricycle drivers' payments via cashless transactions. Even going to the wet market is already a possibility that it will be cashless transactions, right? Because you would never have thought, diba, punta sa palengke, cashless. Yeah. But it is. We're going towards that already. Am I right, Eric?
That's right. That's right.
And we just got a taste, if I may also say, we just got a taste of what Eric was saying. Later on, when it comes to banks, particularly to BPI, when you go into the bank, you have consultation services. And I think Eric just gave us a little taste of what that's like just right now. Am I right, Eric?
Yes. And then, we're always happy to kind of work with our clients to find a solution that works specifically for them.
Okay, thank you very much. Bryce, back to you. And Joey also can pipe in after Bryce has his say about this one. A question from Manuel Carlo Tan says, how will the new normal affect store expansion with regards to location, target market, store size? Because you were the one who was going on about being efficient, how this pandemic really made us think on how to serve our customers better, especially from the pharmacy end, right? So what are your suggestions to this with regards to location? Obviously, we're going community-based. You were saying that, not necessarily in malls. Target market and store size.
Yes, okay.
Go ahead, Bryce.
So in terms of location, the proven, you can see by the data of our existing stores, what areas are really prime. Okay. It will be prime now. It will be probably prime in the next couple of months, couple of years. Okay. Although there's an exception to that, we also saw some areas, especially in the provinces, that had a very sharp shift in terms of the trend of the walk-in and the foot traffic. Let's say, for example, yes. Okay. Yeah, for example, provinces or locations wherein it's a tourist spot. So yes, so because this particular province is known for its tourists, now because of the pandemic there are no tourists, we have no customers. So that's an exemption. But normally, let's say for community branches, what is prime now will probably be prime still in the next couple of months or years. Now, the reason why I was mentioning repositioning a while ago is because for branches in prime locations, usually our rentals are high. Okay. Now, because that contract was already made a few years back, then of course the lessor cannot really give you that much of a concession. That's why we go to some locations within like a 100-meter radius, where some businesses before closed down, and still a prime location. That's where we move in. Now we can negotiate the rental rate because for the lessor, no one is expanding. So I mean, law of supply and demand, right? So the prices right now are low. So for me, let's take advantage of that. Okay, prime location, your existing prime spots, like look for adjacent locations within like a 100-meter radius, then relocate there. Negotiate for good rental rates. especially for the next couple of years. It's a lessee's market right now.
Okay, so that's a good tip when it comes to store
Yeah.
locations.
In terms of target market,
Yes.
for us TGP, we stick to the core. We still have the same target market. Though what we notice is we got some, AB market
Yeah.
during the pandemic because
Nagtitipid na
of
ngayon eh.
yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Because but the key in getting those types of customers is our online service.
Mm-mm.
Because these types of customers are the ones requesting, hey, can you like deliver?
They're savvy. Yeah.
These people have the smartphones, have the technology. That's
It's
why
their lifestyle.
for us to win that market, we need to improve our online and digital services.
Mm-mm.
So that's
And
my
you're
take on
opening
that.
yourself up to a whole new
Yes.
market as well, diba? You're opening yourself up.
Yes, that's right.
How about here, store size?
Size, yes.
naman. Yeah, size.
Yeah. Before, our average store size is around 30 to 40 square meters. Now, we can do 15, 20, because as Eric said, no, it's gonna be about fulfillment. We want the customer. We want to train the customer to use that platform wherein they can just call and pick up.
Okay.
That's really an advantage for us. It's actually a win-win if you think about it, right? Customers will go to the store, won't have to worry about being infected by other customers. Okay, and then it will be efficient for everyone.
Yeah.
So smaller store space, and then more efficient. Rentals, if we look at it in a per square meter, still will be lower,
Yeah.
right?
As
See.
well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Joey, you want to pipe in? Anything you want to add to what Bryce was just saying? Because of course you pretty much are related na brick and mortar, diba?
Sure. So, I think the most important thing is there will be a different answer to the concept that you have, to what you have. So, but I think the common denominator to that question is, I would go back to the same statement I mentioned earlier. What are the opportunities in front of you, right?
Mm-mm.
Right now, I think, as I said, customers are finding it difficult to get to you. So how can you get close to them? So that's the answer to locations, right? So locations, I think there are a lot of opportunities to find location. It's a best rate at the moment. What I think when it comes to the size as a part of the question, I think you always have to create a provision. Find that size that you could actually create and serve what is the immediate need, and be able to adjust those formats to future needs. So when you create that, I think there's flexibility for your concept to be relevant now with the current crisis and relevant in the future. So I think that to me is a win-win for you if you do that. Now,
Definitely, yeah.
Going back to the question of the I think the capex actually goes with that, as well as the rental, because you will have the opportunity, as I said, to cut down the rentals and so on. But more to that, I think if you have what we call a long-term plan for your brands, I think that should stay there. I don't think you should. A lot of companies are saying the 5-year plan is irrelevant at this point. To me, I think it's relevant.
It's still relevant, yes.
It has to be there, but you just have to go and see how you could adjust. So it goes back to what you call the development strategy. I think what the leaders should see is how you could actually bridge the gap between now and the future, without really losing that touch or the focus on making sure that whatever you're doing short term will actually have a better impact for your long term. So that to me is more of strategic, but at the same time addressing the current needs of your target group or your consumers.
Thank you for that. Joey, I'm going to put you in the spot because there's a question here related to you. Michael Anthony Lopez, actually Bryce can also jump in. Since contactless transactions are in place, online ordering, pickup, delivery, these are all your solutions so far to what's been happening. Did you have to hike up product prices to account for additional costs, fulfilling online deliveries and all these things? So did you?
We haven't. I always believe on. I think I always believe that don't penalize your consumers because of these technologies or this of these needs of the new trends. I think you have to go back and see, okay, there are some additional costs on all of this, but what actually will give you also what are those long-term impact as well as those bottom line results for you. Now, I think there are other ways to do it. And if you looked at your total business, it doesn't come only with those costs. It comes with different cost structure. So when you have a multiple cost structure, you have to find what is that, fine tune it, If you have a decrease of 1% somewhere, you have to find another 1% decrease in somewhere. So optimizing it and finding the right balance of your cost structure will help you keep your price. But I think the number one principle, I think whenever changes are happening, don't penalize your customer. I think that's very important. I think there is a reason why you price your product, because you think that's the right price, that's the right proposition for your product. Once you change it, I think there will be something that goes back to the back of the mind of the customers. Am I still getting the value for money that I'm paying for?
Good food for thought. Thank you for that, Joey. Bryce, you want to pipe in? How about you?
Joey actually explained it perfectly. I am in totally agreement with him. And
don't penalize your customers.
Yeah, don't penalize your customers because of these changes. And actually, because of these changes, we're actually able to manage our manpower, as I mentioned a while ago, right? So some savings in some areas, and some spendings in some areas. It will actually, how was this? It will be even off, right?
Let's hear from Eric, of course, our banker. Eric, your thoughts on this one? Because they're mentioning stuff like Food Panda, Grab Food, and all these things. And me personally, I have been hearing, of course, especially if you're a service-based. Kasi now, PPE, gumastos sa PPE, gumastos sa mask. So how can you not now pay these extra things? Maybe not for the food or the medicines or pharmacy-related products, pero paano nga kung service naman? Eric, your thoughts?
No, so that's very true. And in fact, in many service industries, let's just say, for example, you went to the salons are now open, right? So you want to go get your haircut. But the salon that could previously accommodate, let's say, 15 people in their store can now only accommodate 5, right? Because it's down to a third. And so for them, there's definitely a cost increase, right? And there's more, all the sterilization and safety precautions that they have to take. There is a cost implication for them. But I think so. There is rationale for adding some cost, but I think you also have to be very sensitive to take into consideration your market as well. Just because your cost may go up doesn't mean that your consumers are ready or can afford to spend the extra money. So you really have to balance those two things, right? And as Joey was saying, it kind of brings the value proposition back into your mind. This may be what your cost structure looks like now, but you have to think about what the client or what the customer can afford, especially because a number of people, even though they remain employed, and then of course we also know that the unemployment rate is up, but even for those that remain employed, a number of them are not able to work as many hours and therefore are getting a lower pay. So we have to consider all of those things in order for the overall survivability of the business to continue, right?
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for that one. Okay, gentlemen, I think I'll throw out this last question because in the interest of time, our members everyone with us do have to go for a lunch break before they go on to the 1 o'clock. So as a last question, of course, it has been ideal so far for the three of you, for banking, for pharmacy, and even for food. What can you say to those who are struggling that because they cannot operate or they are non-essentials? I'm going to leave it with that. Your piece of advice for businesses or industries who are still struggling due to the pandemic because they either cannot operate, government doesn't allow them to operate maybe, or they're really, they can't seem to survive. Last words on that one. Let's go Bryce first. I'll go backwards this time. Bryce, tips for those who are really struggling.
For those who are struggling right now, my advice to them is take time to rethink if they want to continue with their business right now, practically speaking, because not everyone, as Joe has mentioned, we need cash. We need to reserve our cash. If we can't see our business running in the next few months, probably it's time to rethink our concept, if we really need to continue it or not. The beauty of this conference is that you will have actually ideas on what concepts you can do if you decide to close your business. That's what franchising is all about, right? Plug in, no? so yeah, I think Dr. Sammy Lim kanina mentioned it. Also, Dr. Bing, diba? Franchising is the best way to go at this time, in this crisis, diba? If your business not doing well, then take a look at all the opportunities in front of you. There are a lot of concepts you can do, and we don't need to force the issue if our concept right now is not gonna work. So that's my.
Thank you, Bryce. Shall I go with Joey? I'll end with Eric. Joey? Sorry, Joey, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Final words for those struggling. Yes.
I think we've been there. Everyone struggled at the beginning. I think probably the only thing that the difference between us is we were able to reopen. I think, as I said, we closed for a few months, actually, a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We were basically struggling to manage our cash. I think what
found a way, but that's what makes it inspirational. You found a way, and I trust others will too. Right, Joey?
Yeah, I think that's what we've seen. We were able to come back, and as I said, I think one of the things that I could be proud of, I think, was keeping all our employees employed. I think for those who are struggling, I think the best thing is really go back. I think what Bryce mentioned is what we did in the beginning of this pandemic. We have to go back and really look at our balance sheet and really see how is the health of our business, from that cash standpoint. We see actually, if you have this shelf life remaining for a business, how you could extend it. That's the question, right? Now, if you don't have that cash to sustain it, then you have to make the decision like what Bryce mentioned. But if you have a few more cash that is left there, I think it's important to go back and really look at how you could pivot. I think the pivot is actually something that is part of the session, the conference topic. And I think pivoting is like what we did. We looked at the current structure of our business and looked at what are the opportunities we haven't seen. Because as I mentioned, some of these things only comes out when there is a crisis like this. And for some of us, sometimes we struggle because we try to make things work for the things that doesn't work anymore. But rather than look for something out of this challenge and see what's in front of us, what can we do differently? It doesn't mean that you're in food, you'll stay in food. Maybe it's something else.
Yes.
In fact, we have diverted some of our commissary operations to a different thing. And we came out and say, okay, we generated more revenues that actually sustain us for now. And I think if we didn't do that pivoting, I think we'll be struggling till now, and we'll be losing half of our employees. So I think my advice for it's not too late. You just have to go back, look at where you are, look at your balance sheet, look at where your cash stands. If you have a few more months, I think you can make it. You will be able to make it. Find those other means that you could actually, as Bryce mentioned, a lot of opportunities comes out in this conference. Take that opportunity, look at things, how you could pivot, and maybe look at those brands that are there ready to partner with you. And I think the most important thing for us leaders is to remain positive and realistic at the same time. I will leave that to all the audience for now.
Thank you for that, Joey. And speaking of partners, Eric, please do say your last words, and again, advice to those struggling.
Yeah, no, it's hard to follow. There's very good advice from both Bryce and Joey. And just to kind of reinforce it, I guess what I would say, just saying it in a bit of a different manner, is my advice is don't be afraid to make difficult choices, right? I think businesses that are not able to operate at this time or are having difficulty at this time should take a deep look into their business and see whether this is how they want to move forward, or what fundamental changes they can make in order to adapt to the new circumstance. Don't assume that, oh, in 3 months or in 6 months, I just have to wait it out and everything will return to normal. Not everything will return to normal. So don't be afraid to make difficult choices, and that's going to vary from each individual business, but I think everybody has to make their own assessment.
Thank you for that, Eric. And again, those consultation services from banks just might be also something you might want to check out and need, right? Now, we already heard from our different companies like BRICE and Joey. But again, when you're looking for a partner, make sure you have a good bank behind you as well.